6 months after the battle, Earth was slowly changing. Human construction crews worked day and night, clearing away alien structures and beginning the long process of restoration. But it was bittersweet work. 3,000 years of alien occupation had permanently changed the planet. Captain Daejung led teams of archaeologists through the ruins, searching for anything human that had survived. They found underground archives that the aliens had never discovered, time capsules buried before the Exodus, museums that had been covered and forgotten. Dr. Hana wept with joy when they found an intact library in what had been Busan. Millions of books, music, art, all preserved in sealed chambers. It was the library Governor Zilith had wanted to destroy. "They almost erased this," she said, running her hands over ancient books. "They almost took this from us forever." Elder Myung walked through Seoul's ruins for the first time since she was a child, over 3,000 years ago. She was the oldest living human, kept alive through cryo-sleep technology. She remembered every street, every building. But now it was all gone, replaced by alien structures that were being torn down. Young humans gathered around her, asking what it had been like. She told them stories about the old world, about Earth before the Exodus. Some cried as they listened, mourning a world they had never known. But not everyone was focused on the past. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had to decide what role they would play. The Triaxian coalition was falling apart. Member species blamed each other for the disaster. Some wanted to make peace with humanity. Others wanted revenge. The unity that had lasted 2,000 years was shattering. Ambassador Soo-jin arrived at the coalition capital to negotiate. She was humanity's chief diplomat, chosen because she could be firm without being cruel. The coalition delegates met her with mixed emotions: fear, anger, resentment, and grudging respect. "We don't want your territory," Soo-jin told them clearly. "We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want what was taken from us: our homeworld, our dignity, and recognition that we exist and deserve respect. We're willing to live peacefully with all species, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." Some delegates wanted to ban humanity from galactic politics. Others wanted to form alliances. Arguments broke out. The coalition that had once been so powerful was now weak and divided. Chancellor Vorn, who had warned them about underestimating humanity, tried to keep order. But he was old and tired. "We brought this on ourselves," he said quietly. "We grew comfortable. We forgot that peace must be earned every day." Meanwhile, other galactic powers were watching. Warlord Cross of the Vryn Dominion requested a meeting with Admiral Bo-Ram. The Vryn were a warrior culture who respected strength. "Your people are impressive," Cross told the Admiral. "You could conquer half the galaxy within a decade. Why haven't you?" Admiral Bo-Ram met his eyes steadily. "Because that's not who we are. We didn't come back to conquer. We came back to survive and reclaim what was ours." But not all humans agreed. General Kwan, a high-ranking military officer, believed humanity should expand aggressively. "We have the advantage now," he argued in private meetings. "We should take more systems, create buffer zones, ensure our security. The galaxy only respects strength." The human government, still operating from the fleet while Earth was restored, began having heated debates. Some wanted to expand, others wanted to focus on rebuilding. Admiral Bo-Ram was caught in the middle, trying to find the right path forward. The tension exploded when the Manthari Empire, humiliated by their defeat, launched a surprise attack on a human mining operation in the outer Sol system. 12 human workers were killed in the assault. The galaxy held its breath. What would humanity do? General Kwan demanded total war. "We destroy their empire completely. We show everyone what happens when you attack humanity. We show no mercy." But others disagreed. Dr. Hana argued for restraint. "If we become the monsters they feared, what have we accomplished? We'll just be starting a cycle of violence that never ends." Elder Myung spoke at the emergency council session. Her voice was weak but clear. "I've lived over 3,000 years. I've seen humanity almost destroy itself. I watched us flee our homeworld. I saw us return in fury. But I also remember why we survived the Exodus at all. We chose cooperation over destruction. Don't abandon that now. Don't let anger make us into something terrible." Admiral Bo-Ram made her decision. The human fleet would respond, but with precision rather than rage. They struck only Manthari military targets, crippling their war-making ability without targeting civilians. Within 72 hours, the Manthari Empire sued for peace. Admiral Boram's message to them was simple and clear. Attack us again, and we won't show restraint. This is your only warning. The Manthari Emperor, broken and defeated, agreed to a peace treaty. He paid reparations to the families of the dead miners. The Manthari people, seeing their military crushed twice, began pushing for reform in their government. Back on Earth, the first new human city in 3,000 years was being built. It was constructed on the ruins of ancient Sol and named New Hope. It symbolized humanity's determination to rebuild and move forward. Something unexpected happened as construction progressed. Non-human refugees began arriving at Earth. These were aliens displaced by the Coalition's collapse, seeking safety and opportunity. They asked permission to settle on Earth. The request caused fierce debate. Many humans didn't want aliens on their homeworld after everything that had happened, but Dr. Hana made a passionate argument. If we close ourselves off, we become what we hated, she said. Earth was always a world of many different peoples and cultures. Let it be that again. Let us show the galaxy what cooperation looks like. The vote was close, but ultimately the decision was made. Earth would welcome refugees. It would be humanity's homeworld, but it would also be a symbol of what the galaxy could become. Captain Dae-jung retired from military service after the decision was made. He opened a museum in New Hope, dedicated to preserving the memory of humanity's journey. We must never forget what was lost, he told visitors, and never forget what we're capable of when we must defend ourselves. Ambassador Su Jin successfully negotiated the Sol Accords, a treaty that recognized humanity's sovereignty over the Sol system and established formal relations with the Coalition remnants and other galactic powers. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. 25 years after the battle, Admiral Boram gave her final speech before stepping down from command. She was old now, ready to retire. She stood before a crowd of humans and aliens in New Hope's Central Plaza. We came back in fury because we had no choice, she said. We reclaimed what was ours. But fury cannot be our only legacy. We are home now. We have a chance to build something worth defending. Let us be remembered not just for our strength in war, but for our wisdom in peace, the crowd cheered. Humans and aliens together. Pilot Yunji, now a flight instructor, took young pilots on training runs through Earth's atmosphere. She showed them the new cities rising from the ruins, the forests being replanted, the oceans slowly healing. This is what we fought for, she told her students, both human and alien. Not just victory, not just revenge, but the chance to build something better. Remember that when you fly, remember what matters. As the sun set over New Hope, Dr. Hana stood on a balcony overlooking the city. She thought about everything humanity had lost, everything they had gained, and everything they still had to learn. The galaxy had thought humans were myths. Then they learned humans were real. Now they were learning that humans could choose mercy as well as fury, and that perhaps was the most frightening thing of all. The human fleet attacked at exactly 1 minute past midnight. There were no warning shots, no negotiations, no mercy. They simply struck with overwhelming force. Captain Dravik's coalition fleet was expecting traditional space combat. Long-range energy weapons, slow tactical movements, hours of careful maneuvering. That's how wars had been fought for centuries. That's all anyone in the coalition knew. But humanity had spent 3,000 years learning different ways to fight. The first wave hit before the coalition could even react. Kinetic missiles launched from human ships accelerated to nearly the speed of light. They punched through coalition shields like they weren't even there. 60 ships exploded in the first 6 minutes, just gone, wiped out before they could fire a single shot. Captain Dravik watched in horror as his flagship's shields failed. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Return fire, he screamed. All weapons return fire. But the coalition weapons couldn't lock onto the human ships. They moved too fast, used technology that confused targeting systems. And when coalition plasma bolts did hit, they splashed harmlessly against human shields that seemed impossibly strong. The second wave brought something worse. Electromagnetic pulses washed over the coalition fleet. Entire ships went dark as their systems shut down. They drifted helplessly in space while human ships moved past them like sharks around wounded prey. Then came the nanite swarms. Microscopic machines launched from human vessels, so small they passed through shields without triggering them. They attached to coalition ships and began taking them apart from the inside. Pilots watched in terror as their own vessels disintegrated around them. Within an hour, half of Dravik's fleet was destroyed or disabled. He sent a desperate message to Coalition Command. "We need reinforcements. Now they're slaughtering us." But reinforcements were days away. The Coalition military had grown lazy during centuries of peace. They weren't ready for real war. Pilot Yunji led her fighter squadron through the chaos. Coalition fighters tried to intercept them, but it was like children fighting trained warriors. The human pilots were faster, smarter, more aggressive. They had been bred and trained for 3,000 years specifically for this moment. Yunji destroyed 4 enemy fighters in 3 minutes. It felt too easy. These Coalition pilots had probably never seen real combat before. They didn't know how to fight someone who wanted to win more than they wanted to survive. Reporter Zilka, embedded with the Coalition fleet, broadcast everything live. Her voice shook with fear. "This isn't a battle. It's a massacre. The humans aren't primitives. They're not legends. They're apex predators, and we woke them up." Her broadcast went viral across the galaxy. Suddenly, nobody was laughing anymore. While the space battle raged, human dropships entered Earth's atmosphere. They were heading for every Coalition military installation on the planet. Sergeant Hyunwoo led the first assault team. He was a big man, made bigger by the powered armor he wore. The armor made him look like a walking tank. He and his Marines hit the ground outside Governor Zilith's palace in what had been Seoul. The palace guard opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts struck Hyunwoo dozens of times, but the armor absorbed it all. He didn't even slow down. "Breach and clear," Hyunwoo ordered calmly. His team moved forward like a machine. They weren't angry or emotional. They were just doing their job. Efficiently, thoroughly. The palace guards had never seen anything like it. They kept shooting, kept hitting the humans, but nothing stopped them. Within minutes, the palace was secured. Counselor Methis, a minor Coalition bureaucrat who happened to be visiting Earth, hid in a bunker beneath the palace. He watched security footage of the human soldiers moving through the building. They moved with such precision, such deadly purpose. These weren't savage primitives. These were professional soldiers who had perfected the art of war. "What have we done?" Methis whispered to himself. Across Earth, similar scenes played out. Every Coalition military base was hit simultaneously. Every defense platform destroyed. Every weapon depot captured or demolished. The human assault was surgical and devastating, but something surprising happened. Civilian areas were untouched. The humans carefully avoided populated zones. They could have burned cities and killed millions, but they didn't. They targeted only military and government installations. Dr. Hana's influence was showing. She had argued for restraint, and Admiral Boram had agreed. This wasn't about revenge. It was about taking back what belonged to them. Governor Zilith tried to flee when the humans breached his palace. He ran toward his private ship, but Sergeant Hyunwoo caught him easily. The governor collapsed on the ground, begging for his life. Hyunwoo hauled him to his feet. "You're going to meet the Admiral," he said, "and you're going to answer for what you did to our world." Zilith was brought before Admiral Boram on the human flagship. He was a shaking, terrified mess. The confident alien who had mocked humanity was gone, replaced by a coward who understood too late what he had provoked. "You turned our memorial sites into casinos," Admiral Boram said quietly. "You sold our ancestors' bones as souvenirs. You planned to destroy our last library for profit. You laughed at our history." "I didn't know," Zilith cried. "We thought you were extinct." "We didn't know you would come back." Admiral Boram's eyes were cold. "Ignorance does not erase guilt. You will return to your people and tell them what happened here. Tell them what happens when humanity is provoked." Zilith was placed on a transport ship with other Coalition officials and sent away from Earth. He would spend the rest of his life remembering this day. Back in space, Captain Dravik's fleet was shattered. Only 37 ships escaped. Dravik himself was captured when his flagship was boarded by human Marines. Like Zilith, he was sent away with a message: "Be grateful we showed mercy." The Battle of Seoul lasted 36 hours. In that time, the Coalition suffered its worst military defeat in history. 200 ships destroyed or captured. Every military installation on Earth eliminated. Thousands of Coalition soldiers killed or captured. Human casualties: 43 dead, 112 wounded. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the news spread. The humans weren't just strong. They were overwhelmingly superior. Chancellor Vorn called an emergency council session. The chamber was filled with panicked delegates. They could destroy us all, someone said. If they could do this to our best fleet in 36 hours, what could they do to our homeworlds? But Admiral Boram broadcast a message that surprised everyone. Humanity has reclaimed Earth. We sought only what was ours. We gave warning. We showed restraint where we could have shown none. This war is over. We have no desire to conquer the galaxy, but let this be a lesson: we are not myths. We are not extinct. We are humanity, and we will defend what is ours. On Earth, Captain Daijung walked through the ruins of Seoul for the first time. He knelt and touched the soil, feeling the ground that his ancestors had walked on. Dr. Hana stood beside him, tears streaming down her face. "We're home," she whispered. Around them, human construction ships were already arriving. The long work of restoration was beginning. Reporter Zilka made her final broadcast from the escape pod after abandoning Dravik's destroyed flagship. Her voice was quiet and serious. For 3,000 years, we told stories about humans. We made them into legends. We laughed at the idea they could be dangerous. We were wrong. They didn't die. They didn't fail, they left, and they became something we should have feared. The humans have returned, and the galaxy will never be the same. In the human fleet, pilot Yunji removed her helmet and looked at Earth through her cockpit window. She had never seen it before, but it felt like coming home anyway. "We did it," she said quietly. "We actually did it." Admiral Boram stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching Earth on the main view screen. 36 hours ago, it had been an alien resort world. Now it was human again. But she knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy had been shaken. Questions remained. What would happen next? How would the coalition respond? What kind of civilization would humanity build on their reclaimed homeworld? Time would tell. But for now, after 3,000 years, humanity was finally home. The human ultimatum became the biggest joke in the galaxy. Comedy shows made fun of it every night. Social media exploded with memes about the pretend humans who thought they could threaten the mighty coalition. Merchants started selling t-shirts with slogans like, "Humans are coming," as a funny novelty item. On Triaxion Central, the capital world of the coalition, people gathered in bars and public spaces to watch news coverage of the strange fleet sitting at the edge of the Sol system. The ships hadn't moved since delivering their warning. They just sat there in formation, silent and still. "What are they waiting for?" people asked, laughing. Maybe they're waiting for someone to take them seriously. But not everyone was laughing. Chancellor Vorn, the elderly leader of the Coalition Council, felt a deep unease he couldn't explain. He had lived a long time and learned to trust his instincts. Something about this situation felt wrong. "Send a military fleet to Seoul," he ordered, just in case. His advisors thought he was being paranoid, but they obeyed. Captain Dravik, a decorated Manthari officer, was given command of 200 warships. It was the largest military deployment the coalition had made in centuries. Dravik was eager for glory. "I'll crush these pretenders in a day," he boasted to reporters. The coalition doesn't bow to threats from extinct primitives. Meanwhile, Envoy Thrall saw an opportunity for fame. He demanded to be allowed to board the human flagship and expose the hoax on live video. To everyone's surprise, the humans agreed. Thrall and a documentary crew were transported to the human command ship. The moment Thrall stepped into the human vessel, his confident smile vanished. The ship was enormous, far larger than it had appeared from outside. The technology around him was beyond anything he had seen. Lights and displays showed information in ways that seemed impossible with coalition science. Then he saw the humans themselves. They were tall, much taller than him. They moved with military precision, their faces hard and serious. These were not actors playing pretend. These were trained soldiers. Admiral Boram met Thrall in a conference room. She was an older woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen things Thrall couldn't imagine. Dr. Hana was there too, along with Commander Jae-hoon, the fleet's tactical officer. Hana presented genetic evidence, historical records, and archived video footage. She showed Thrall images of Earth as it had been 3,000 years ago. Massive cities, advanced technology, billions of people living and working together. "We didn't go extinct," Hana explained quietly. "We detected a cosmic threat approaching our region of space, something that would have sterilized every world in this sector. We couldn't fight it, so we left. Every human boarded generation ships and fled to the edge of the galaxy, beyond the reach of the phenomenon. Thrall watched footage of the Great Evacuation, billions of people saying goodbye to their homeworld, knowing they might never return. The sorrow and determination on their faces was real and undeniable. "We survived in exile for 3,000 years, Admiral Boram said. "We advanced our technology. We prepared for the day we could return. And now we have. Earth is our world. It has always been our world. And we want it back." Thrall's hand shook as he realized the truth. These weren't pretenders. They were the real thing. Humanity had returned, and they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. "You have 26 days left," Admiral Boram told him. "I suggest you use them to evacuate." Thrall returned to Coalition space a changed man. He immediately went before the Council, presenting all the evidence. His voice shook as he spoke. "They're real. They're actually real, and they're not primitives. Their technology is decades ahead of ours. Maybe centuries. We need to evacuate Earth immediately." Chancellor Vorn believed him, but many others didn't want to listen. The military faction led by Manthari representatives refused to back down. "We will not be intimidated," they declared. "We've ruled the galaxy for 2,000 years. Earth is Coalition territory now. The humans abandoned it. They have no right to make demands." Governor Zelith funded a massive propaganda campaign. Broadcasts flooded every channel, all saying the same thing. Humans were weak. That's why they ran away. Even if they're real, they're no threat to us. "The Coalition is strong," the Council voted. They would not evacuate. Instead, they would teach these returning humans their place in the modern galaxy. Captain Dravik positioned his fleet around Earth, ready for battle. News crews from across the galaxy gathered to watch what everyone assumed would be a quick Coalition victory. On the human flagship, Commander Jay-Hoon briefed the fleet commanders. 3,000 years, he said. 3,000 years we spent preparing for this. We didn't waste that time. While the Coalition grew comfortable, we grew sharp. He showed them the weapons humanity had developed. Kinetic missiles that could accelerate to near light speed. Electromagnetic weapons that could shut down entire fleets. Nanite swarms that could disassemble ships from the inside. Quantum technology the Coalition had never dreamed of. "We gave them a chance," Jay-Hoon said. "They chose to refuse. Now they'll learn what happens when you underestimate humanity." Pilot Yoonji ran final drills with her fighter squadron. She was young, born on one of the generation ships. She had trained her entire life for this moment. "We're going to take back our home," she told her fellow pilots. "For every human who died in exile dreaming of Earth, for every ancestor whose grave they desecrated, we fight for all of them." Dr. Hanna made one last plea to Admiral Boram. "There are innocent civilians down there. Aliens who had nothing to do with the decision to take our world." Admiral Boram's face was carved from stone. "We will minimize civilian casualties where possible." "But Hanna, they took our world. They mocked our dead. They turned our history into entertainment. There will be consequences." "There must be." Day 29 arrived. Captain Dravik gave speeches to his fleet about defending Coalition honor. Governor Zelith threw a celebration party in his palace, built on the ruins of Sol. The party's theme was Victory Over Myths. Reporter Zilka, a young Triaxian journalist, positioned her camera to broadcast the moment when the pretend humans would be defeated. She had built her career on covering this story as entertainment. She expected to film something funny. On Earth, alien families went about their normal lives. Children played in parks built on top of human cemeteries. Tourists took selfies in front of the last standing human monuments. Nobody was worried. The Coalition had never lost a war. Why would this be different? On the human flagship, Admiral Boram stood on the bridge looking at Earth one last time before the battle. She thought about all the humans who had died in exile, never seeing home again. She thought about the insult of having their world turned into an alien resort. She thought about Governor Zelith planning to destroy the last human library for profit. "All ships," she said quietly. "Battle stations. Tomorrow we take back our home, and we remind the galaxy what it means to provoke humanity." Captain Dai Jung, back on the silent horizon, made a final log entry. "We didn't want this war. We gave them every chance to do the right thing. But they wouldn't listen. They thought we were myths. Tomorrow they learn the truth. Tomorrow humanity shows the galaxy what we really are." The countdown reached 0. Day 30 had arrived. Across the human fleet, weapons powered up. Thousands of ships moved into attack formation. Fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. Marines prepared their armor and weapons. Every human knew what this moment meant. This wasn't just a battle. It was a message to the entire galaxy. Admiral Boram gave the order that would echo through history. All ships engage. Show them what humans are made of. The silence shattered. The Battle of Sol had begun. The silent horizon drifted through the darkness of space like a ghost returning home after a very long journey. Captain Dae-jung stood on the bridge, his hands gripping the railing as he stared at the view screen. After 3,000 years, humanity was finally coming back to the place they once called home. The ship was small, built for stealth and reconnaissance. Only 30 people were on board, and they were the first humans to enter this part of the galaxy in millennia. Their mission was simple: observe, gather information, and report back to the main fleet that was still waiting at the edge of known space. Dr. Hana walked up beside the captain. She was the ship's historian, responsible for documenting everything they would find. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked at the star maps. "We're almost there," she whispered. "Almost home." Dae-jung nodded but said nothing. He had been trained his entire life for this moment. But now that it was here, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and dread. What would they find? Had Earth remained empty all these years waiting for humanity's return? Or had something else happened? The answer came sooner than expected. When the silent horizon entered the Sol system, the crew stood in shocked silence. Earth was not empty. It was covered with massive structures that looked nothing like human architecture. Strange ships moved in orbit around the planet. The moon had been hollowed out, turned into some kind of mining operation. Mars glowed with the lights of military bases. "No," Hana whispered, her voice breaking. "No, no, no." Dae-jung's jaw clenched. He activated the ship's advanced sensors, gathering as much data as possible. The crew worked in stunned silence, recording everything. They intercepted communications in languages they had never heard before. They watched as alien tourists took pictures in front of ruined human buildings. Lieutenant Tai Min, one of the younger crew members, pulled up a broadcast that was being transmitted across the planet. It showed an alien giving some kind of tour. "And here we have the Temple of the Lost Ones," the alien said cheerfully. This was once called Sol, built by the humans, an extinct species that vanished mysteriously 3,000 years ago. Scientists believe they destroyed themselves in some kind of primitive conflict. The alien held up a human skull. As you can see, they were fascinating creatures. We're very lucky that they left behind so many artifacts for us to study. Hana covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Taemin slammed his fist against the console. "They think we're extinct," he said through gritted teeth. "They're selling our ancestors' bones like souvenirs." Dae-jung forced himself to remain calm, though rage burned in his chest. "Keep recording," he ordered. "We need to see everything." Over the next several days, the silent horizon remained hidden in the outer system, observing. The crew learned that Earth was now called Teravos Prime, a luxury resort world controlled by something called the Triaxian Coalition. The coalition was an alliance of 7 different alien species that ruled most of the galaxy. They watched broadcasts where alien scholars debated what had happened to humanity. Some thought humans had killed themselves. Others believed they had been too primitive to survive in space. All of them agreed that humans were extinct, nothing more than an interesting historical footnote. Governor Zelith, the alien who controlled Earth, appeared in many broadcasts. He was a Manthari, a species that looked like walking reptiles with 4 arms. He boasted about how profitable Earth had become, how many tourists visited every year to see the ruins of the primitive humans. Hana discovered something even more disturbing. Coalition archaeologists had completely misunderstood human history. They had found evidence of human wars and violence, but they had missed all the context. They thought humans were savage and stupid. They had no idea that humans had built civilizations, created art and music, sent missions to other planets, and worked together to survive the greatest challenge their species had ever faced. "They don't know," Hana said quietly to Dae-jung one night. "They don't know what we're capable of. They think we were weak." Dae-jung stared at the image of Earth on the view screen. Somewhere down there, buried under alien cities, were the graves of his ancestors, the museums and libraries that had held human knowledge, the parks where human children had played. All of it was gone, turned into entertainment for aliens who laughed at humanity's memory. He made a decision that would change everything. Against protocol, he sent an encrypted message back to the fleet. It was short and simple. They have taken everything. Recommend full mobilization. Humanity must return in force. 4 months passed. The Silent Horizon continued its surveillance, documenting everything. The crew watched as Governor Zillith announced his latest plan. He was going to demolish the last intact human library, a building that had survived in what was once Busan. He wanted to build a luxury casino on the site. More profit, Zillith declared in his announcement. The old ruins are interesting, but they're not making us enough money. Time to modernize. Taemin couldn't contain his anger anymore.
Captain, we have to do something.
We can't just watch them destroy everything. But Daijung held firm. We wait for the fleet. We do this right or we don't do it at all. Then, on the edge of the Sol system, space began to shimmer. At first it was just one ship. Then 10, then 100, then thousands. The human fleet had arrived, and it was far larger than anyone in the coalition could have imagined. The ships were massive, built with technology that had advanced for 3,000 years in isolation. They moved with precision and purpose, taking up positions around the system. Admiral Boram, the commander of the entire human fleet, broadcast a message on all coalition frequencies. Her voice was cold and hard. This is Admiral Boram of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. You are currently occupying our homeworld. You have desecrated our history and disrespected our dead. You have 30 days to evacuate Earth and return it to human control. This is your only warning. Choose wisely. The message spread across the galaxy in minutes. On Earth, Governor Zillith laughed when he heard it. He appeared on every news channel mocking the transmission. Humans are extinct. Everyone knows this. This is obviously a hoax, some fringe group playing pretend. I'm not going anywhere. A famous coalition historian named Envoy Thrall gave lectures about how ridiculous the message was. Humans were barely intelligent, he said, showing off human artifacts like they were primitive tools. If they existed at all, they were nothing special. This threat is meaningless. But aboard the Silent Horizon, Daejung and his crew knew better. They had seen the fleet. They had seen the weapons. They knew what was coming. Daejung recorded a final message in his personal log. We gave them a chance. We gave them 30 days. More mercy than they showed our ancestors' memories. But they won't listen. They think we're a joke. In 30 days, they're going to learn the truth. They're going to learn what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. And they're going to learn what humanity really is. The countdown began. 29 days remained. 25 years had passed since humanity's return. A new generation had grown up on Earth, and the galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Director Tae-young stood in her office at the Interspecies Cultural Exchange, looking out at New Hope City. She was the first human born on Earth after the liberation, and she had never known the Exodus or the war. To her, humans and aliens living together was normal. She was meeting with Ambassador Linvex, a young Triaxian diplomat. Unlike the older generation who remembered the war with fear and shame, Linvex had grown up in a galaxy where humanity was simply another power to work with. My grandmother still has nightmares about the Battle of Sol, Linvex admitted as they shared tea. But I don't see you as monsters. I see you as people who defended their home. Was it brutal? Yes, but was it unjustified? I don't think so. Tae-young appreciated the honesty. Some of our elders still don't trust aliens. They can't forget what was done to Earth. But people like us, we have a chance to build something different. Not everyone agreed. Tension still existed. Some human populations distrusted all aliens. Some alien species still harbored resentment about humanity's violent return. The wounds of history healed slowly. Professor Jiwoo taught history at New Hope University. He made sure every student understood what had happened and why. The galaxy forgot about us, he told his classes. They assumed we were gone forever. That's a lesson about complacency. But we also forgot ourselves. We became so focused on survival that we almost lost our humanity. That's a lesson about balance. He showed them footage of the Exodus, the long years in deep space, the fury of the return, and the difficult years of rebuilding. Learn from all of it, he urged. The good and the bad. Then something happened that changed everything. A deep space exploration vessel discovered evidence of the cosmic threat that had forced humanity to flee 3,000 years ago. The phenomenon was still out there, still moving through space, and new calculations showed it would reach coalition space within 500 years. The discovery sent shockwaves through the galaxy. 500 years seemed like a long time, but it really wasn't when talking about preparing an entire civilization. And the galaxy had grown comfortable again, just like before. Admiral Min Seo, who had taken over from Admiral Boram, brought the evidence to the Galactic Assembly. She was younger than Boram, but just as determined. 500 years seems far away, she told the gathered delegates. But that's what our ancestors thought when they first detected this threat. They waited too long to act. Don't make the same mistake, the response was mixed. Some species wanted to start preparing immediately. Others thought 500 years was plenty of time. Old patterns were repeating, but then the Manthari Empire launched another attack. A Manthari extremist group bombed a mixed human-alien colony on a frontier world. 57 people died. Among them was Tae-young's sister, who had been working there as a teacher. The galaxy watched nervously. Would humanity retaliate with overwhelming force? Would the fragile peace shatter? Tae-young struggled with her grief and rage. They killed her because she was human, she told Linvex through tears. How can we not respond with force? But Admiral Min Seo made a different choice. Instead of a military strike, she proposed a joint coalition human task force to hunt down the extremists. She wanted to show that terrorism was everyone's enemy, not just humanity's problem. Ambassador Linvex helped negotiate the agreement. It was difficult. Many humans wanted revenge. Many aliens feared it was a trap. But eventually the task force was formed. Human and alien soldiers working together captured the extremists within weeks. The Manthari government, pressured by both internal reformers and external powers, cracked down on extremist groups. It wasn't perfect justice. Many people, including Tae-young, felt it wasn't enough. But it prevented another war. Elder Myung, now near the end of her incredibly long life, spoke at Tae-young's sister's memorial. I've lived long enough to see humanity almost destroy itself, flee to the stars, return in vengeance, and now build peace. Each generation faces a choice. Will we be defined by our fury or our wisdom? Choose wisely, her words resonated. The younger generation began pushing for more cooperation on the approaching cosmic threat. If it had driven humanity from Earth once, it could threaten everyone now. Professor Jiwoo was appointed to lead the historical research team, studying how humanity had survived the threat before. We did it once, he said. The galaxy can do it again, but only if we work together. Plans began forming. Human technology combined with coalition resources. Vrin military expertise combined with Triaxian scientific knowledge. Species that had been enemies were now becoming partners. The 25th anniversary of humanity's return arrived. A massive ceremony was held on Earth with representatives from across the galaxy attending. Admiral Boram, now 93 years old and retired, gave a speech that would be remembered for generations. 25 years ago, we returned in fury. We reclaimed what was ours through force. But fury alone builds nothing lasting. These 25 years have taught us that our true strength isn't in our weapons. It's in our ability to endure, to adapt, and to choose wisdom over vengeance when possible. Dr. Hana stood beside her, both of them old now but still sharp. We lost 3,000 years of our history, Hana said. But we gained perspective. We learned that civilizations are fragile, that peace is precious, that today's victims can become tomorrow's tyrants if we're not careful. We must remember both our capacity for fury and our capacity for mercy. Director Tae-young and Ambassador Linvex stood together during the ceremony, representing the new generation. They announced a joint human Triaxian expedition to study the approaching threat, combining humanity's experience with coalition resources. The galaxy thought we were legends, Tae-young said in her speech. Then they learned we were real. Now we must prove we're more than just warriors. We must prove we're builders too. Captain Dae-jung, elderly but still active, stood in his museum watching young people tour the exhibits. Human and alien children walked together, learning about the Exodus, the return, the war, and the peace. One young human child asked him, "Will we have to fight again?" Dae-jung knelt down to the child's level. "Perhaps. The galaxy is dangerous, but now we face it together. And that's the difference between the galaxy that forgot us and the galaxy we're building now." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for all who had died. Humans who never saw Earth again, aliens who died in the war, everyone who had suffered in the years of conflict. It was a reminder that victory always has a cost. As the sun set over New Hope, the city's lights came on. Human and alien families walked home together. Ships from a dozen species orbited overhead. The Sol system, once isolated and forgotten, had become a symbol of what the galaxy could be. Professor Jiwoo added a final exhibit to the museum, a holographic display showing humanity's complete journey. From ancient Earth through the Exodus, the long silence, the fury of return, and the wisdom of rebuilding. The display ended with a quote from Admiral Boram. "They thought we were legends. They learned we were real. Let them now discover we are more than both. We are humanity. We endure, we adapt, we survive, and we never forget." Far above Earth, Admiral Minseo stood on the bridge of the new human flagship. She looked at the planet below, thinking about the future, the approaching cosmic threat, the fragile peace, the new generation that would face challenges her generation couldn't imagine. But she also thought about humanity's journey. They had been driven from their home. They had survived 3,000 years in exile. They had returned and reclaimed what was theirs. They had chosen mercy when they could have chosen genocide. They had built peace when they could have built an empire. "We've come so far," she whispered to herself. And the journey was far from over. On Earth, in New Hope City, children of different species played together in parks. Students studied together in universities. Workers built together in factories. It wasn't perfect. Prejudice still existed. Tensions remained, but it was progress. Elder Myung passed away peacefully that night, surrounded by family. She was 3,272 years old. She had seen more than any human should ever have to see, but her last words were hopeful. "We made it home, and we made it better." The galaxy would never forget humanity's return. The fury that shocked civilizations, the restraint that surprised everyone, the wisdom that followed the rage. But more than that, they would remember what humanity proved, that a species could be driven from their home, survive impossible odds, reclaim what was lost, and still choose to build rather than destroy. That was humanity's true legacy. Not the weapons or the war, but the choice they made afterward, the choice to be more than their fury, the choice to be human.